Can you add a half an inch of solid muscle to your arms in 30 days? We think so. It's hard, but it's possible. We're going to tell you how in today's episode, but you need to be focused and follow the steps carefully. Let's go.
You can teach this?
I think so.
You have to have bigger biceps to teach this?
Yeah. I think it is possible, especially if you're in your first few years of training. I think if you're like super advanced, it gets a little bit more difficult. But you can do this, and I did this. I did this as a kid. I remember as a 17-year-old kid, I made this a goal in 30 days and it actually worked. But it has to be very focused.
Talk a little bit first before we get into the steps on how to do this and how we would go about it. But why do you think people struggle to do this? Like, what do you think? What are some of the greatest challenges, or what are the things that keep the young kid who's trying to put an inch on his bicep? Why does he struggle with that, you think?
Well, I think one of the big reasons is that people don't consider, because they'll throw everything but the kitchen sink at their arms, but they don't modify the rest of the workout, so they overtrain.
Yeah, it's overtraining a lot of times.
Yes, it's just they're just overdo. So what ends up happening is they're doing a normal workout, plus they're adding everything on top of it to try to get bigger arms. It's actually the first point. The first point of this is that you should add volume and frequency to your arm training, but you should take it from other parts of your training. In other words, you trade volume and frequency for arm training from other areas. So what you don't want to do is take your normal workout, which if you're consistent with your workout, you're probably training, or you've probably found a rhythm where you're training with an intensity and a volume that's right around your limit. Most people who are consistent do that. That's what we tend to veer. What you don't want to do then is just add more volume to that, because although it may benefit the arms because it's too much total volume, you end up not responding really well. You overtrain the rest of your body. So you have to take volume away from other parts of the body and then add it to the arms. In other words, the 30-day period is arm focused. I mean, you still train the rest of your body, but you're not trying to build the rest of your body. You're just trying to build the bis and the tris.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm reading all of the ones that you have on here, and it's like, I feel like every one of these points, you got 6 points that you've written down. I can recall when this happened, like in my arm journey.
Yes.
Arms was like, obviously as a kid, that was like the main focus for quite some time for me. And I remember there were very key moments of, I don't want to say hacks, because it's not a hack, it's like science. I figured out like, oh, that makes sense. I can't just keep piling the volume on and expect my body to respond. I have to find a way to balance that out. And then the other ones that you have down here, I'm like, I remember like vividly, like when I started doing that and like how much I saw a difference. So like, I love this as a cool topic for somebody to go apply all of these in the next 30 days and feel confident that if you apply all these strategies, you'll get there, because I could argue that I made that half-inch gain each one of these steps, if that makes sense.
Well, I think too, when you brought up the overtraining thing, like that was so prevalent for me and my friends, because too, we weren't really getting good sleep, and we weren't really like eating, like all this stuff. Like there's more things we're going to get. Yeah, too, but it all aids in the recovery process of the actual building part of it. Was never something you consider. You just think immediately you just have to keep hammering those arms to death.
Yes. I think so with volume. So I'm going to speak generally because this is very individual. Okay. So I know this is a general statement, but so long as you control the volume and intensity for the rest of your body, and I'll put it differently, cruise with your training for the rest of your body, your legs, chest, back, delts, like everything else is a cruise for the next 30 days. So you're just kind of training a little bit here and there.
And by the way, you won't go backwards in those.
You're not going to go backwards.
You won't.
You know that. So that's what I mean by you're still going to work them out. You're just going to cruise with them. So cut the volume way down. And then when it comes to bi and tri training, you're doing 10 sets for biceps, 10 sets for triceps, 3 days a week. And you can totally do that so long as the volume is controlled for the rest of your body. So you're going to hit your arms 3 days a week with 10 sets for both biceps and triceps, but the rest of your body is far less. I mean, you're going to be doing maybe 6 sets for chest and 6 sets for back and 6 sets for legs total for the week. Most of the volume is for arms, and that's what's going to make this happen. If you maintain the current amount of volume that you're training, and then you try to add and do 30 sets for bis and tris throughout the whole week, you're not going to gain anything. It's just way too much for your body to overcome. It's too much volume, too much intensity for the entire body, because we tend to think of volume and frequency and training to be site specific. like, 15 sets from my biceps. They can handle 15 sets. But there is a whole body systemic effect from training that you also have to consider. In other words, if you hammer your legs and overtrain the hell out of your legs to the point, you can get to the point where the rest of your body won't respond just because of all the volume you're doing in your legs. Same thing is true for the rest of your body.
Well, especially when when we're talking about trying to progress a smaller muscle that doesn't quite tax the CNS like those other ones do.
Right.
So if you slam your legs, slam your chest, slam your back, and then all of a sudden you also increase volume on your arms, you're going to get nowhere right there.
That's right.
And we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast how little of volume you need to maintain the muscle mass. That was the big misunderstanding for me. Is I didn't understand that.
You thought you had to keep it
yes,
going.
I had so much fear around not keeping my training volume and intensity up in fear that I would go backwards, in fear that I would lose all that muscle. And it's crazy how wrong I was and how wide that spectrum is and how far to the right I was of like it's like I thought for most of my training career I needed to be this much volume and intensity to keep all that muscle. The older I get and the more experience I realize, like, oh my God, I didn't need to do nearly any of that. I could have totally cruised on my, say legs and chest and back for a month or two and put all that energy and focus on my arms and could have seen my arms rocket.
Yeah, so this is true for any body part, by the way. We're talking about arms today, but this is true for any body part. Like, there's a big difference between what is necessary to cause muscle growth and what is necessary to keep muscle growth. Keeping muscle growth, I mean, there's lots of studies on this and they vary.
Yeah.
But every study done on this shows significantly less volume is required to maintain than there is to build. Some studies show as little as 1/9 the volume. There's others show maybe 1/3 of the volume. So in other words, whatever you're doing now, cut it down and then add it to your arm training. And doing 10 sets for bis and 10 sets for tris on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, that's a nice general number. Of course, there's individual variants. That might be too much for some people, and for other people, that might be able to do much more. But I found with the people that I've worked with and myself, so long as everything else was controlled, that 30 sets total for that month with all the other volume controlled, it really does add muscle to the arms. And
to add to this point, if you're listening to this and you're like, "Wow, that's what I'm already doing that much," or 12, then you're probably the person who's doing too much on the other things. That's what you might see is if you just scale back, on some of those other muscle groups for a month, you will probably see gains in the arms. It's not you need to. Oh, the guy said you need to do this, so you're already doing that, so I'm going to double it. It's like, well, no. If you're not seeing results in your arms and you're already doing 30 to 40 sets of arms in the week. Yeah. That probably points to you're either overtrained on everything else,
recovering,
or underfed, or under rest. Like there's something going on there, and the answer is not piling more volume on.
So an easy way to do this is you look at your total sets for the week. Now they're not all equal. This is not perfect, right? A set of squats is going to hit you differently than a set of curls. But look at your total volume for the week, and you trade sets is generally how you want to look at this. But of course, take into consideration some exercises are more taxing than others. Today's program giveaway is MAPS Aesthetic. If you want to win that, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. There's also only 1 day left for our sale this month. MAPS Performance and MAPS Performance Advanced are 50% off. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code MARCH50 for the discount. Back to the show. Now, next up is to do compound exercises for both biceps and triceps. Close grip bench presses, dips, curl grip pull downs. I love curl grip pull downs or pull ups if you're really strong. A lot of people don't realize what a great bicep exercise this is.
So good.
Now it's done differently than you would do like a supinated grip pull down. So a pull down supinated grip, you're sticking your chest out and you're squeezing your shoulders back. You're emphasizing the lats. When you're doing this as a curl, you're kind of rounding forward and you're curling down. You're doing a curl on the way down. It's a compound lift for the biceps, and it's very effective at building the biceps. Compound lift for triceps, I don't think I need to make the case. I think a lot of people know that dips and close grip bench press is a great exercise, but definitely don't skip out on the compound lifts. They're so good. They're so effective at building overall arm mass. When I figured this out as a youngster, I mean, it was like close grip bench press, like nothing made my triceps.
Blew my triceps up.
Yeah.
Blew them up. That's why today I still put that as my go-to tricep move for gains. I just, for me, all the different things that I remember implementing here. I remember this. I remember when I started doing close grip bench press, and I talk about how I like it on incline more than I like it on flat, just personal preference. The size that I put on my triceps, and this is late in my career. I'd already been training for some time, so this isn't like newbie gains coming on, but putting a lot of emphasis on, and again, focusing on just getting strong in that lift. Like that was the thought was okay, I've implemented this a little bit in my routine here and there, but I've never made an effort, conservative effort. Like, can I get strong with this lift? And I just went on a kick for like 6 months of getting strong with that lift. And it was the best my triceps ever were.
Yeah, you mentioned those, the bicep curl version of doing a chin up. Now add weight to that, do less reps, God. Also like with dips, I do the same thing where you're adding weight and you're scaling back your reps. So you're just very strength focused and you're adding load to that. And you get the compound benefits as well. So I just think that anybody that's pursuing like getting bigger arms, a lot of times they're just always, their go-to is more reps.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And those 2 or 3 lifts because there's a lot of talk and you've seen things in magazines, like a lot of times people will say like it's a waste of time doing 2 or 3 reps for bis or tris.
No, not when you're doing a compound lift.
But when you're doing a compound lift, like, so when you think of the close grip bench, you think about dips. When you think about the close grip pull up, those, the body weight dips or with weighted dips, like, man, those 3 reps
those
of
are
that,
the bangers for it. Yeah, you base it
heavy
on that.
3 reps on that.
Yeah. They work really well.
Put mass on your arms.
They're great for low reps. And the curl grip, by the way, the curl grip pull-ups, most people won't be able to do these. Okay, so you might be able to.
Yeah, just body weights.
You might be able to do supinated grip pull-ups, and you might be able to rep out 10 of those. But doing them with the technique that I'm saying, and I remember the first time I learned these, I watched professional arm wrestlers do pull-ups, and I noticed their form was way off. I thought it was way off. It was very different, I should say. Traditional pull-up, the way I learned it, the way I always taught it, it's a back exercise.
Yeah, lead with your chest.
And you're leading with your chest. You're bringing your scapula down. You're squeezing your lats. You're trying to use your back. You're actually trying not to use your arms, especially if you're a bodybuilder. You're trying to use more of your back. And I'd watch these arm wrestlers who are all arms, right? Because they're arm wrestlers. And they would round their shoulders forward and they'd do pull-ups like this. And I remember thinking like, that is wrong. I thought, that's because they're
protracted.
That's because their arms are really strong. Try doing a chin up like that. It's really hard. So I recommend you try a pull down first because you might hurt yourself. It's actually a really difficult way of doing a pull up to pull with your biceps that way. But it is a low rep exercise, creates tremendous tension. And compound lifts always lend themselves better to low reps than isolation exercises, right? So you could do low rep curls and tricep press downs, but they start to look ugly. Form goes out the window. They just don't lend themselves well to low reps. But the compound lifts definitely do. Compound lifts are great for the low reps. Next are to do stretch exercises. And what's cool about this is those of us who've been in the space for as long as we have, we've always noticed that stretch exercises seem to build great muscles in the arms, right? So like overhead tricep extensions, like that's always a favorite among people who really like to develop their triceps. Drag curls, incline curls, that seem to be a favorite among people who want to build their biceps. Well, now we have studies that show that loading a muscle in a stretch position seems to have an additional hypertrophy benefit on top of what you would get from traditional exercise. In other words, loading in the stretch position seems to be more effective. So in your workout, overhead tricep extension, where you focus on the stretch, and those incline curls where you're laying back and you're getting a real deep stretch at the bottom and then coming up, those are phenomenal exercises to add to your repertoire.
I'm gonna add to this tip because of all the ones you have on here, it makes the most sense it complements this tip. And that is where I found out how important it was to position my elbows in like 3 different positions for both my bis and tris for every workout. And really what that does is by moving the elbow position in those 3 different main points, is you're messing with the strength curve. You're messing with making sure that one of those exercises is putting the muscle in the stretch position.
Where
and then one is
highest.
Yeah, when tension is the highest, one's in the lengthened position, one's somewhere in the mid-range is what's happening there. And that's all falls into this tip.
Like incline curl. preacher curl,
Yes.
Barbell curl.
Yes.
Right? Or
Yeah.
overhead tricep extension, close grip bench press, tricep press down.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And that was like game changer for me.
Same.
I wish I remember where I read it or who told me at first. Was just like, because I, at that point, before that point, I was guilty of, doing 2 or 3 bicep exercises and tricep exercises with the same elbow position.
elbow,
I'm doing the rope, then I'm doing the push down, then I'm doing reverse. I'm doing like these movements. Elbows are all positioned right by my side, like doing nothing up in front of me, nothing above my head. Like, and that was like massive game changer, was just knowing how to do that in every one of my arm workouts. Is okay. That's the way I would approach the arms, is like, okay, today I need to make sure elbow is positioned in the 3 main positions. And really what it's doing is making sure that I'm attacking at least one in the stretched, one in the shortened, and one in the mid-range.
Yeah, so like a good workout programming would look something like this, right? If you're doing a bicep workout, you would do a few sets of the curl grip pull downs or pull ups if you're really strong. You would do barbell curls, and then you do incline curls, right? You're hitting the bicep from different angles. For triceps, it might look like close grip bench press, overhead tricep extension, tricep press down. Different elbow position, plus we're including a stretch exercise, plus we're including the compound lift. Like that's really, really good. Yes. Really good workout programming, because the exercises that you combine make a difference, right? The exercises make a difference. There are some that are better than others, and then how you combine them make a difference. And this is the beauty of workout programming. Next up is to include trigger sessions on your off days. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're doing your arm workouts. Well, here's what you do on Tuesday. Here's what you do on Thursday. Here's what you do on Saturday. Here's what you do on Sunday. You get resistance bands and you give yourself a pump 2 or 3 times a day. That's it. Not a workout.
Yeah.
You just give yourself a pump.
That's the key to this tip. The key to this tip is you're already doing plenty of volume and intensity with the workouts. You don't need more of that. This is more facilitating recovery, getting a pump. So the mistake whenever I teach this is, then I find out later on the client is like treating
doing
it
extra
like,
workouts.
they're like a workout. It's burning. They're getting sweat, and it's like they're trying to get, and they're thinking, oh, more is better, but that is not the desired outcome here. The desired outcome is you've already put the work in to grow. This is actually more to facilitate recovery. Pump some blood in there, keep oxygen, blood flow, everything coming in and out of that muscle, and that'll help facilitate recovery, which will then help build and grow. It is not to do damage. It is not to like push. And that's the mistake made when you prescribe these.
At my peak, I would do 3 of these a day. I'd do 3, 8-minute trigger sessions a day. And it literally was, I'm just going to get a little bit of a pump 3 times a day. And this, when you combine it with good workout programming, it really makes a big difference. And people overlook this. It's cool because we now have data showing just how much this amplifies muscle protein synthesis. We have data to show how it improves health and all that other stuff as well. Yeah. But do not sleep on the trigger sessions. I'm telling you right now, if you gain,
they're magical.
If you could gain a 1/2 inch through just the workout part, you probably can add another 1/4 inch from adding the trigger sessions, or close to that much. That's how much of a difference the trigger sessions make. So don't sleep on them.
It's a bit of an energy boost as well. I've noticed it's like you do, like especially if you can spread it out 3 times a day when you have your normal dips, and like all of a sudden now you're pumping blood back and getting contraction out of your muscles. It's just enough to stimulate your body, and your body's more alert. Everything's working more effectively. Then you go back to a harder workout, the following day, and it's like,
feel good.
You don't feel like hammered at all. It's all refreshed.
So generic tip to go with that. Again, it's a little generic overgeneralization here, but for most people, this should work perfect, which is 1 exercise, 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps with the lightest band you can get, like the real light orange one, which is typically the lightest one. 3 sets of 1 exercise for the muscle group, 15 to 20 reps. That's enough.
Very short rest period.
Very short. Yeah. Very short. In fact, I normally do 2 or 3 exercises, and I do it kind of like in a little circuit. I do like bicep curl, overhead extension, lateral raise, and then I go around. I do 3 rounds of that. Done.
Yeah. But make it buy and try.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's it. And then you literally, that's all you're doing. You're not trying to do any more than that, and that'll do the job.
This episode's brought to you by LMNT. Click here and get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase. Next up, eat a lot. Eat in a surplus and sleep a lot. Like, if you do everything perfect and you're not eating enough protein, enough calories, and if your sleep is crap, you can forget about all your gains. You'll go backwards. So you anytime you're trying to build muscle, anytime you're trying to work on a weak body part or see a massive difference, especially in a short period of time, you need to bump your calories. You need to put yourself in a calorie surplus. So for most people, that's adding 200 to 500 more calories a day than you're used to eating. We're only talking about 30-day period here. Yeah, 30 days. That's it. So 200 calories if you're a female, probably 500 calories if you're male, in addition to what you're currently eating. Hit your target body weight in protein and get 8.5 hours of sleep. That's your target every single night. This is just as important as a workout for building muscle.
So in my experience, the two most common things that are keeping people from seeing the result, the people that want this, right? The guy or the girl, whoever saw this episode was like, I want to hear that. I'm interested. The two things that have kept them from being able to do this is either the first one we talked about, overtraining, so too much intensity over volume, and the other one is undereating. And many times it's a combination of both. Many times I've got somebody who's doing all the work because they're trying to grow the arms, and they're overdoing the work, and then they're also not consistent with getting enough protein and calories to support what they're doing. It's like the perfect recipe for plateau and not seeing results, is you're training too hard, too much, and then on top of that, you're also not feeding what the body needs to recover. Those are the two most common.
Yeah, and once a week, here's the last one. Once a week in one of the workouts, do a few sets of blood flow restrictive training. It's intense.
Ooh, yeah.
So what this essentially is you'll use it. I like using knee wraps for this. You use a knee wrap, you kind of tie it around the top of your arm, above your bicep and tricep, tight enough to where you can feel some of the pressure. Then you get really light dumbbells and you do a bunch of reps of curls and a bunch of reps of tricep press down, and you do 3 rounds of that. And what happens is the
significantly lighter weight.
Very light. The knee wrap, it includes blood outflow. So the muscle gets filled with blood, but it can't pump it out. So the pump gets really intense. It stretches the fascia. It sends muscle building signal, and it's done with very, very light weight. This by itself, by the way, is one of the fastest way to add.
You're living
size.
in that burn.
Oh, it's
everything that the hypertrophy burn
yes.
provides. It amplifies that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there is a video floating around where I have incredible hair and I'm working with Sal's son in a video.
You guys are very handsome.
You could probably find the video somewhere if the
nice
editing
short window.
team can add it to this. I think we did a long time ago on exactly how to do this.
Yes.
So if you're not sure how to set it up, I know we've done a video on
but
this.
But it'll add size to, it works real well for calves too in a very, very short period of time. So, but literally just do it once a week though. Don't get carried away with this. You get carried away with this, you can overdo it as well. But few sets for bis and tris at the end of one of your workouts, get a crazy pump, burn, whatever, and then take off the wraps and there you go.
We have a few questions here. The first one is, what is considered a big arm?
Yeah. You know what?
All relative.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So with a man with a lean, 16-inch arm, right? A lean 16-inch arm that's defined is more, it's definitely looks better. It's more impressive than in a kind of smooth 18-inch arm. Okay. So definition and muscularity make a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yes, huge difference. So typically in the world of muscle building, like if you get up to 17, 18-inch arms, you got big arms, right? But more important than that is shape and definition. Like shape and definition is what makes all the difference.
The most compliments I got on the size of my arms when they were at least 1 inch to 2 inches smaller than what they've been before.
Because you were ripped.
Because I was ripped.
Yeah.
Because I was so lean. When you are lean and your delts are built, you have good delts and you're lean, separates that, it makes the arm. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, I think most of us that want big arms are chasing that. It's less about the inches, even though that's the way.
Nobody asks you the tape measure. Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody. It's like what they look like. And so I can tell you right now, being lean and having good shoulders adds to having great arms more so than adding an inch to your soft arm.
Yeah.
What is the best rep range for arm training?
So if you're going to go lower reps, it's the compound lifts. But the typically, all rep ranges are valuable, but typically rep ranges between 8 to 15 are probably best, just because a lot of the exercise are isolation. You can do low rep isolation exercise, just the form tends to go out the window.
I mean, I'm gonna say that where the gold is at is in the one you don't do.
Yeah.
So when Justin made the point about the dips and the pull, like what's so cool about that is if you heard that and you've never loaded and done one of those exercises and done 3 reps of dips or 3, like you're gonna get a huge bang from it. Now, if you're the type of person that loves to lift heavy and you always train 3 to 5, 6 reps most of the time, then you're gonna see tremendous value in 15 to 20 reps and superset type stuff. So it really is Because again, all rep
Shake your
ranges
style up.
Yeah,
really,
whatever it is that you lean more towards, try leaning more towards the other direction. And if we're talking about 30 days, right? I have 30 days to give you a half an inch to an inch on your arm. What am I doing? Well, if I'm coaching you, I'm going to ask you, are you the guy who's more likely to do the 3 reps on the dips, or are you the guy who's more likely to superset
Good point.
2 exercises? And then I'm going to push you in that direction.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about supersets, but that's another big one.
Next question is, do cheat reps have any value?
Not really. I mean, there's arguments for and against it, but I think there's definitely people who know how to maintain tension, who know how to hit the target muscle properly with a cheat rep. There's people who have this skill and this ability. Typically, they're advanced lifters. Bodybuilders can do this really well. But I typically advise against them because I don't see value. There's really no value outside of the fact that you're using more weight. And I think if you use less weight with stricter form, it's just as valuable.
Not only that, Sal, but if you use the theory behind why these have any value whatsoever, if you apply that to the compound list we talked about, you're going to get all the, so like, I think seeing someone do a cheat rep on your standard bicep curl is not a good idea. Now, if you had to cheat your way up to a pull up because your body weight or the 30-pound kettlebell you're pulling up is so heavy, like you're going to get more out of that than you would doing an isolation exercise that you're rocking or swinging cheating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't recommend it. I think the people who can do cheat reps really well are really advanced. And they know how to maintain tension. And I think they would get just as much value going strict.
I agree.
Really do. So,
on the value ladder, this is the bottom.
Yeah.
This
this
wasn't in our list for a reason.
That's right.
Next question is the pump important?
Very important. Now, it's less important as a muscle building signal, although there's evidence that shows that the pump might actually trigger some muscle growth itself. It's more valuable, though, as a sign that everything is right. Okay, so if you're getting
connecting to the muscle.
Yeah, if you're getting a really good pump, you're probably well hydrated, well fed, well rested, not overtrained. If you're working out and you can't get a good pump, then it's probably one of those things is off, right? So it's less about the pump making the muscle grow, although again, there's some evidence that shows that it may do that as well. But it's, for me, if I can't get a good pump, it's like, okay, what's off? Why am I not able to get a good pump?
Am I hydrated enough? Like, what's happening?
That's it, 100%. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. So let's say you decide to do 100 squats every single day. What happens to your body? Some pretty cool stuff.
Ooh,
let's talk about this.
You get stronger.
If somebody, thanks, you give away the first one for sure. Damn. Actually, a lot of people, it sounds obvious, but then you have a lot of people like, well, you can't do that every day type of deal. You have to do them the right way, right? I think 100 squats all at once is probably not a good idea, but spread out throughout the entire day, you for sure will get stronger.
You can easily overtrain if you